Hey guys, it's Fernando over here again. We are at Knowledge Fest Orlando. Let's bring Matt. They could tell us all about automobile.
Hi, good day. My name is Matt Overbeck. I'm the VP of Sales and Marketing for AudioMobile, AMG. The company has a storied history dating back to the late 80s, where AudioMobile was famous for creating much of what we consider the architecture of high-end car audio, from high voltage preamps to 6-channel front-rear sub-sat systems. Southern California-based company. We're now a Las Vegas-based company. We focus now on small form factor, high-performance subwoofer solutions, which is super relevant in today's automotive requirements and trucks and SUVs, etc. Today we're going to talk principally about our unique solutions, which include our MCAR, which is an acronym for Modular Coupled Acoustic Radiators. It basically is the same reflex technology as you get from a ported box, although it allows you to tune for the same sound quality, optimum frequency from somewhere between 33 to 38 hertz, but in a much smaller box. If you want to get high output from a small sealed box without having to do a complicated vented box or bandpass box, you can get that kind of high output from a very small sealed box. Radiator is a different format or a different architecture of a vent. Instead of having a tube to take the back wave of the subwoofer and channel it to time align with the front wave of the woofer, this uses the internal pressure of the main woofer to drive a second piston, and there's no port noise. Beauty is you have a smaller enclosure, very high output, much less complicated than doing a vented enclosure. This is our Evo, which is our least expensive cast frame series. It's also our shallowest mount. This is what we call our pull-apart driver to show the proprietary technologies: low profile, solid pole, no rear axial vent, which means you can put the woofer right up against the back wall of the enclosure, reducing the enclosure depth. Also, we use a multi-layer, large diameter voice coil to handle more power. Integral cooling vents built in, that when the driver is mounted, the air can be pumped out around the magnet instead of out the back. This allows for a much more lower profile enclosure because it's not the depth of the woofer that really matters, it's the depth of the enclosure. Consider that the net mounting depth of the driver is comprised of how deep is the woofer, how much of a leading edge it has, if it's got a protruding leading edge, and if it has a rear axial vent. All of our drivers use solid motors, which allows it to absorb more heat. There's more steel to dissipate the heat, and you can make the enclosure more compact. Evo Series is available in 8s, 10s, and in the last couple of months we introduced a new 12-inch that's only 4.7 inches deep, works great in as little as 0.65 cubic foot box or about a 1 cubic foot vented box, depending on the tuning. Another key part of our Evo technology is what we call our motor forward technology. Generally, subwoofers, the motor is entirely inside the frame, or it is hung under the back side of the frame. Ours has part of the motor, the top plate, inside the frame, which then again reduces the mounting depth. This also, despite being a shallow mount woofer, has a full 10 millimeter thick top plate, which is generally something you only find in woofers that are $600, $700, $800. It provides more steel, greater magnetic flux, and also offers additional cooling. Another key aspect of the Evo, in fact this is true of all of our current AudioMobile subwoofers, is we use a composite laminated cone. Although it looks relatively simple, is actually a 5-layer Kevlar reinforced pulp-based cone designed for 18-inch Pro Sound subwoofers, which have a very large piston area. The unibody cone underneath here is both vented. You can see there's actually cooling vents here to let hot air out. This unibody cone is actually 5 layers of Kevlar reinforced. This top piece is the same material, but these outer areas where they overlap and it's laminated, it's literally 10 layers of Kevlar reinforced cone. Incredibly expensive cone, but the cone is really the thing that controls the sound quality because it's the only thing that's connected between the air and your ear.
Seems like it's really hard to bend.
The technical term is a high stiffness to mass ratio, also known as Young's modulus. You can Google this and it will explain that some materials are very rigid, some materials are not. To be able to have a high performance shallow woofer, it really kind of starts with the cone, because if the cone flexes, it's a form of distortion. You need to have a low profile cone that is super rigid. To give you another example of how we overbuild our products, this is our 8-inch Evo. You can see it uses the same voice coil diameter as we use on our 10-inch. It's almost unheard of to put a 10-inch subwoofer motor on an 8-inch woofer. We do it because our 8s actually perform like a 10-inch woofer. Because our drivers are all form factor friendly focused, you can put our drivers in smaller enclosures, harder to fit places, and get big bass from a micro enclosure. which is very important these days. Finding space to put subwoofers in vehicles is getting harder and harder. There's a lot of sort of an urban myth. People perceive that all shallow mount woofers are bad sound quality. That's generally not incorrect, because most shallow mount woofers, they do two things that you don't want to have happen. They have very limited excursion, or X-max. They won't travel very far before they start to distort, and they very often, because they have small, weak motors, they need a large box. If you have limited excursion and a big box, that's not what you want. What you want is high excursion, high power handling in a small box, and it takes a very specific engineering design to achieve that level. And all of our drivers, that's where we start, reverse engineer the rest of it from that starting point. The Evo Series, which is our least expensive cast frame series, is available in 8, 10, and a 12. The series above that, our next generation Elite series, will be shipping in the next 90 days. That is available in an 8 and a 10, but of course all of our drivers can be augmented with our M-Car passive radiator technology to convert a 10 into a 13, or using 2 radiators, the equivalent piston area of a 16-inch subwoofer, and yet you can do that in approximately a 1 cubic foot box, which is a pretty miraculous solution and very relevant for today's needs. This is our next generation Elite series, the 3200 series. This has been in development for the last couple of years. It is a composite between the benefits of our Evo series along with some other advanced technologies on some future drivers that we've been developing. It features our proprietary ICAR intercooling. This is an aluminum cast piece that is then machined to provide cold air in and hot air to be pumped out by the movement of the cone and the spider. This new driver will have a 19mm one-way linear X-max and handle 750 watts RMS. It does all that in a 5.4-inch mounting depth, which is almost unprecedented in this industry, and is a very good value too, because these will typically sell for somewhere between $500 to $550 retail.
Where we can find it?
AudioMobile products are sold through a very limited network of high-end specialty retailers. We are in the process of adding some online retailers. We have one currently. We will be adding 2 more over the next couple of months. But if you go to our website, which is audiomobile.net, you'll be able to see a listing of some of the very Top Gun elite retailers that we have from coast to coast. Don't have a retailer nearby you, you'd be able to buy it online through a very select distribution network of qualified retailers. Thank you for your time. We look forward to the next time. Thank you, Fernando. Happy 2021.
Bye, guys.